Hi, my name is Andrew Hyde, and I'm here to talk about an issue that I feel is very important for our age group and kids younger than us and older than us. Um, my topic is student athletes and if they should be paid or not. Now, to me, this is a big issue because athletes every year are doing all they can to do things for these schools, and these schools are making all the profit off of it. These student athletes, all every year, are putting their bodies on the line and should see some type of profit that these schools are making throughout the year. They are playing for these schools and should financially be supported by these schools as well because they are really bringing in a lot of income for these schools in different ways. And the schools are making all of it themselves. The students struggle like other students, so for them to have an extra thing like playing a sport on their table, it really shows that they need more support because they aren't getting as much time and energy as these other students are allowed to have. Now, first off, for me, I have a friend that's actually a student athlete, and he really just talks about the struggle of it. It's really something that's hard for him to handle and continue throughout his life. He talks about how much time he doesn't have. He's supposed to put all this dedication to all these different things while being a student, and it really puts a lot on his plate. He's supposed to be a good worker. He's supposed to be a good school person. He's supposed to be great at his homework. And on top of that, he's supposed to be a great athlete. Now, this puts a lot for him and his issues for him throughout his life. So it really leaves you at the point of is it worth it? And it would be more worth it if these kids were allowed to make a little money off of this and be financially supported like they should be. This is very important to me because I think it's a big issue going on for students all the time. Um, Kids are giving so much to these schools, they should see some kind of profit off of it. They're playing on TV, they're promoting these schools in different ways. And the longer these teams are playing on TV and the bigger the channel, the more these colleges are bringing in and the more these schools are being promoted. And what are the kids getting out of it? Nothing. They aren't seeing as much as they should be able to see. They should be able to see more money. They should be able to see a little bit of that profit each year from it. The schools are making all the money off the TVs and promotions, and the kids aren't seeing any of it. An article on SB Nation by Roger Sherman shows that March Madness alone, which is the NCAA tournament for basketball in college, signed a deal with CBS worth $11 billion to play their games through 2024. This is $11 billion that are being seen only by the colleges. The athletes aren't being able to see any of this money as students and are only there because they're being shown to play. They're being told to play, which is their job as a student athlete, and they're just doing it. But they aren't making any money off of this job. So they aren't being able to be supported like they need to be. One issue that pops up is a big food issue also for these student athletes as well. um, these athletes are given 3 small meals per day and has really been an issue for them as well. Here is a picture of a man named Shabazz Napier. Now Shabazz, he came out in 2014 after he won the big NCAA March Madness tournament for UConn and explained his issues as a student athlete. He talks about how he would go hungry at times because he didn't have enough time to eat because of practices and everything going on, or didn't have enough money to support himself for meals because he's having to dedicate himself so hard to this game of basketball. Now, this really opened up a lot of people's eyes when he came out, and because he was one of the main reasons that this team had won the championship. He was their main player, and everybody around the world was seeing, hey, this big player isn't able to eat right even at school, which is an issue. Sure, he's getting the scholarship, but that scholarship isn't supporting how much these athletes need to eat. They're growing big kids. These are the big kids that we're looking for in games, and they need to eat more. Eventually, he did help them come out with a meal plan called Unlimited Meal Plan for Student Athletes. This allows all student athletes to eat as much food as they need to and be supported by the colleges in this way. This really turned things around in this little area, but it's just a small piece of things. They still aren't making a profit like he should have been. Another big player name is Arian Foster, who plays now for in the NFL. Um, and in college, he played for Tennessee. Here, his coach actually got in trouble because he would feed his student athletes and give them meals when they needed it. And the coach actually got in trouble for it, which is a big issue because this player thought it shouldn't be an issue because they needed the food. They were hungry. Now, an article by Tom Greerance on how much the NCAA actually makes shows that athletes bring in about $12 billion a year. And this alone, once again, isn't seeing any of the money to the students. They aren't able to make any profit off this, and they keep having the issues themselves. Another issue is the kids are putting their bodies on the line for these schools, and the schools don't have to do anything about it. So the things getting hurt are the students and the kids. The schools aren't affected. They aren't having problems like the kids would, and this is a big issue to me. Kids are hurt all the time, leaving them lost and without support and hard to continue with their work and stuff. And if they're getting injured, that could be a big problem for them in life. A lot of these kids have dedicated their whole lives to wanting to play these sports, and they've given it their all. They would sometimes don't focus in school because they're so focused on these sports. And then say you get to this college level as an athlete and you get this big injury. Well, look at there. You're out. Everything you've worked for in life is gone. And if you weren't able to make some kind of profit throughout that time, you might be lost. You might be having issues in life for the rest of your life because of this injury that you sustained playing for this college and playing the sport you loved, which really brings a big problem to me, and I think it's a big issue as kids should be allowed to play and have more sport. This here shows that 1 in 4 athletes get hurt throughout the year. 1 in 4 kids playing a sport get injured, which is a big issue. So those injuries could range from being light or for being really bad, but in the end, a lot of kids get hurt, and they should be able to see a financial support in some different way. Um, and now I think it's important also to answer the other side of things. Um, all the time you hear about how kids shouldn't be paid because they're receiving scholarships and things like this. But that doesn't mean they're getting more time like these other students are. That's the big issue here, the time. Um, these athletes are supposed to go to practice, go to school, go do their homework, eat, and then have time for a job as well. For most of these student athletes, they don't have to have time for a job because they're dedicating themselves so much to these sports. So they're having issues being able to support themselves and pay for things, and that's where a little financial support from these schools would actually really help them. Um, they're also having issues with focusing on school themselves. The schools themselves, they should be able to focus more on their schoolwork than on play, because in the end, more people are going to be out having jobs than playing in sports the rest of their lives. According to ESPN, more than 400,000 athletes every year go pro in something other than sports. This just shows you that there's so many other things that kids should be focused on, and for them not to be able to support themselves financially throughout their entire career and then not go pro in that really shows that the schools need to be supporting them a lot more and giving them a lot more backup as well, because they're promoting these schools so well as they play and throughout their lives that they aren't getting the support that they should be getting. One more thing that I think should happen is students should be allowed to be sponsored or promoted. If different places like Subway, different places like on the internet or Facebook or on different websites want to support these kids and promote them and give them some money, they should be able to. This way, the colleges aren't having to pay, but the kids are still making some kind of profit. Um, Student athletes are huge. You see them all over the TVs all the time. So you see how big these stars are. names like Johnny Manziel, when that came around, if he would have been able to be promoted by a lot of places, they would have promoted him, and he could have made a lot of money off of this because so many people were in love with how he was and the kind of athlete he was. So this to me is another thing that's really important that they should change as well, because they should allow kids to get the support in any type of way they can. And this doesn't affect the colleges then, because the students would just be going through these different companies and being supported in these different ways. So for me, student athletes should be paid because they're putting their bodies and their lives on the line all the time. They're doing things like promoting these schools, they're helping better these schools, and they're not getting the support that they deserve from these schools. Financially, because they don't have enough time to have jobs, because these schools want them to dedicate their jobs to the school and be athletes. They're making sacrifices all the time and not being paid. So I think the colleges should make a sacrifice as well and pay these athletes for all the work that they're giving them and all the hard work that they're giving for the promotion and the support that they're giving these schools in different ways. Thanks.